I get so many questions about reactivity. I feel a lot of people are bothered by this fact that they become reactive in day-to-day situations, and those reactions cause problem in their daily life. So what can they do about the reactions? And let us understand this with the help of an example. Now, imagine a situation where you are walking on the road and somebody comes from behind in a car, driving a car, and honks. Okay, that person blows the horn. And you immediately turn around and you react. Now, this is very common in India. So all Indians understand that, that when you're walking on Indian roads, I think every couple of minutes, a car would pass by blowing horn. So, the moment you're walking, it's like, bah! So it is very common in India. I think most Indians have adapted to it. But it is not that common in Western countries. And of course, when someone comes from behind and honks, you do feel upset. Now, why does that reaction happen? First, let's understand why the reaction happens. First of all, the moment you receive that stimulus, say blowing of a horn, you immediately turn around and you see an individual person sitting in the car. And immediately you create an image on top of this person. In other words, you formulate the personality of this person. The person may not be like that in actual life, but you create a personality on top of what this person actually is. So you imagine this person to be in a certain way. Maybe it's based on the way that person looks or dresses. And this comes from your conditioning of the past. So let's, for example, say like if somebody, if somebody has long beard or maybe tattoos all over their body, then you would immediately, bring up an image that maybe this person is a substance abuser or, maybe he has been to the prison or something like that. So that image pops up in front of you. So what you are interacting with is actually your own self. You're not interacting with a person. There is no person sitting over there driving the car. So you superimpose an image on what is based on your conditioning, based on how things have unfolded for you in the past. And then based on that, you create a reaction. But what happens? Say, if instead of the car and the person and honking, there is a dog, and a dog comes by and starts barking. It's a small, cute puppy. So in that, you will not feel the anger because there is no image. There is no reference. You see the dog, you see the innocence, and you let it go. You probably laugh it out. But with human beings, we immediately create an image based on past. Now, in that moment, to have a reaction, to tell that person that why are you blowing horn, it's making me uncomfortable, that is fine. That I believe is not the reaction. A reaction, the egoic reaction that comes up has a different quality. The egoic reaction is something like this. It says, how dare you blow the horn on me? Don't you know who I am? Don't you know what I can do? I'm going to teach you a lesson. That is the egoic reaction, which is the problematic reaction. And notice how it arises. First, there is a sensation. Now, we are so afraid of being with that sensation, we start moving outwards. When I say outwards, the thinking starts arising. Okay, this person is at fault. I will teach them a lesson. How dare he? How dare she do that? So all that is the horizontal movement of the thinking mind, which brings about the suffering, which brings about conflicts in relationship. But if you see carefully that there is no person actually behind you driving and honking, it is just everything is a happening. You just realize that everything is a happening. Then what happens? You still may react. You still may tell the person to stop honking or tell them that that's not a good behavior. That is perfectly fine. But there will be no egoic reaction about it. So the sensation will arise, and when you don't allow the mind to move outwards and you simply be with the sensation, you see that after a while the sensation dissolves. The important thing to note here is that the sensation is not coming from the outside. It is not happening because of something which is outside. That sensation is already within you. What happened outside was just an event that triggered something which was already within you. So some form of hurt, like this is very common in cases of PTSD, and since I think you're aware that I have a history of that. So this kind of reaction comes up, even in my case with this understanding, the momentary reaction comes up every time somebody honks. But then what happens now with the new understanding that the agency that I think exists, which is creating this reaction with me, is actually not there. When I realize that, something entirely different happens. What happens is that I stay with the sensations because I recognize that it is coming from within me. I'm fully present to that sensation. And when I'm fully aware and fully attentive to that sensation, that means my total attention is there to that sensation. I'm not judging the sensation as good or bad, as desirable or undesirable. I'm not putting any attributes. I'm not allowing my mind to flow elsewhere. I'm not blaming or condemning the person, because of whom the sensation has arisen. I'm simply with the sensation here and now. Now something beautiful happens. The sensation begins to dim down and it eventually vanishes in time. Now, most of us are so scared of feeling our feelings that it becomes our defense mechanism to let the mind flow outwards. And that manifests as blame, shame, and guilt-tripping others, holding others responsible for my misery. This is what creates interrelationship conflicts. Once it is understood that all phenomena has arisen in consciousness, and that consciousness does not belong to an individual, but that consciousness is the totality of all functioning, of all happening, then this problem does not become egoic. So what happens there is, I am with the sensation dissolves, I see the illusory nature of sensations, and I know that this is not me. It is just a sensation. There is no separation between me and the sensation. I am just the sensation. The me is an illusion. The subject that thinks it is experiencing the sensation is an illusion. So once this is understood, that there is no me that ever experiences anything, but is the experiencing itself, then it is also understood that even the other is not there. And everything is seen as a happening. And this understanding brings down and dissolves the egoic reactions. The momentary reaction still may happen. The anger still may come up. And you may react in that way. You may tell the other person, please don't do that. That is fine. That is not the problem. Don't blame yourself for doing that. The problem is the ego, the narcissistic reaction, which says that how dare, don't you know who I am? That is the problem. The unwilling to stay here and now creates the flow of thinking mind in the horizontal time, which is suffering. Of course, if it has to happen, it happens. So don't even blame yourself for that. If an egoic reaction also comes up, see it as a happening. Don't label it good, bad, evil, and don't condemn yourself for having a reaction. It's okay. Something happened, you reacted, everything happened in a moment, and then it finished. That's the end. But a lot of people get trapped in this vicious cycle of, learning that one method that stops all future reactions. The momentary reactions will happen in life. Without that, the flow of life is impossible. That is given to you with a specific purpose. For example, if someone attacks you, physically attacks you, it is your natural, protective instinct to fight back. Either you will fight back or run away. That will depend on your nature, on your programming, whether you will fight or you will run away. But a reaction will be produced in the moment. But what will not happen is that you won't sit with that story once it has finished, and you won't blame yourself for behaving the way you did. Neither will you condemn the other person for their behavior. You may still take an action against the other person. You may still, if somebody disrupts your peace, you have every right to protect yourself from every kind of abuse, whether physical abuse or psychological abuse. So if you have to take help of the law, by all means, do it. But at the same time, holding a story in your mind about the other person, believing them to be the doer of their actions, you create long-term resentments. And those resentments cause pain and suffering. Anything that you hold for long is going to give you suffering. So, Ramesh Balsekar would say that there is nothing that can stop the pain in the moment. You cannot know what your next thought is going to be. You cannot know what your next reaction is going to be. Sometimes you will be able to control all your reactions, but there are days when you may not be able to control your reaction. Some days you may experience an outburst. You may experience anger. And even if you see traditionally, even in the Indian culture, all the traditional sages were known for their anger. They were very, they were not easy masters. They were hard task masters. They carried weapons. What was that? That was basically for self-protection. That is not the egoic reaction. They reacted in the moment, but they did not carry any hate or resentment towards the other. That understanding was always there. So don't worry about your reactions. Just watch your reactions and see from where the reactions are coming. And that itself will give you all the answers.